Mickey and Mallory. Feared by thousands.
I love you so much, baby.
I love you.
Watched by millions.
We're fate. Can't stop fate. Nobody can.
Woody Harrelson, Juliette Lewis, Robert Downey Jr., and Tommy Lee Jones.
What do you have to say to your fans?
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Natural-born killers. In the media circus of life, they were the main attraction.
Natural Born Killers is one of the most provocative films in history. In essence, Natural Born Killers serves as a scathing commentary on the intersection of crime and media, urging audiences to reflect on the cost of the glamorization of violence in pop culture. Through its unique visual style, which could be described basically as a fever dream of the MTV generation, Natural Born Killers challenges the audience to question the impact of media on society and the blurred lines between reality and fiction. While the film's main theme is to attack the popularity of true crime stories in the news, what makes it more unnerving is the fact that the film is loosely based on real killers and the real coverage their story got in the media. Originally, the screenplay for Natural Born Killers was written by Quentin Tarantino in the early 1990s. The initial draft was a violent and ironic exploration of a young couple on a killing spree, and a journalist named Wayne Gale that was reporting on them. Tarantino tried and failed to shoot his version of Natural Born Killers because he couldn't find the funding he was looking for, so he ended up selling the script, which eventually made its way to director Oliver Stone. Stone rewrote Tarantino's script, keeping much of the snappy dialogue, but changing the focus of the film from journalist Wayne Gale to the characters Mickey and Mallory and their killing spree. Tarantino has stated in the past that he walked out of Natural Born Killers when he first saw it in the theater because he was so mad. He once even declared to his fans, "I hated that effing movie. If you like my stuff, don't watch that movie." Tarantino still has never seen the entire film from start to finish, but he doesn't hold any animosity towards Stone and wished the film well, even if it was years later. Stone, when asked about Tarantino's dislike, said, "I think he was hurt that I rewrote it so much, but I told him that I really can't make what he, as a 26-year-old, would make as a first film. As a 47-year-old filmmaker, it doesn't interest me. I want another level of socio-political comment, and I want to deal with the whole justice system." Stone's film Natural Born Killers tells the story of Mickey and Mallory Knox, a Bonnie and Clyde-esque duo who wreak havoc across the countryside, killing and looting whatever comes before them. The pair ultimately kill 52 people across New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada. Also, following the murder spree is a self-serving tabloid journalist named Wayne Gale, who profiles them on his show American Maniacs, which soon elevate the couple to cult-like heroes. Eventually, after their spree, Mickey and Mallory are sent to prison, and after a year, they are ordered to be transferred to a mental institution for lobotomy. Before their transfer, Wayne Gale is granted a live interview with Mickey that will air after the Super Bowl. During the interview, Mickey declares himself a natural-born killer, inspiring the other inmates to start a prison riot. Gale's entire television crew is killed trying to escape the riot, while Gale himself begins indulging in violence, shooting at prison guards. Mickey and Mallory steal a van and escape into the woods with Gale, to which they give him a final interview before declaring that he also must die. He attempts various arguments to change their minds, appealing to their trademark practice of always leaving one survivor. Mickey tells Gale that they are leaving a witness to tell the tale, his camera. Gale accepts his fate and is shot to death. Unbeknownst to the three, the entire exchange is being transmitted to a horrified news anchor through Gale's in-ear microphone. The film ends flashing several years later, and Mickey and Mallory, still fugitives, travel in an RV as a pregnant Mallory watches their children play together. Natural Born Killers has an interesting story to say the least. However, a lot of people found that the visual techniques created by Stone was what made the film legendary. Stone's direction introduced various visual techniques, such as animation, black and white segments, and rapid editing. Stone used these varying methods to connect to the rise of MTV and the music videos at the time. Stone also wanted to use different techniques to enhance the social commentary he was making with his film. For example, in portraying Mallory's flashbacks to her horribly abusive home life with her father, Stone made it into the style of an I Love Lucy episode, where he is mocking the fake happiness of a regular sitcom. Natural Born Killers captures how our parasitical relationship to pop culture and media can magnify the cycle of violence. However, in critiquing the idea of pop culture's influence on true crime, The story used horrifying true crimes to inspire the film's murderous young couple. For 2 months starting in late 1957, 19-year-old Charles Starkweather and his 14-year-old girlfriend Carly Ann Fugate embarked on a killing spree across Nebraska and Wyoming that left 11 people dead. Charles Starkweather was born on November 24, 1938 in Lincoln, Nebraska. He grew up in a seemingly regular middle-class family, but by the time he was a teenager, Starkweather was introduced to the iconic actor James Dean and connected with the social outcast personality that Dean portrayed in his movies. Starkweather was 18 when he met 13-year-old Carly Ann Fugate in 1956. They'd been introduced by Starkweather's ex, who was Fugate's older sister. Starkweather's relationship with Fugate was already a crime, given that the age of consent in Nebraska, both then and now, is 16 years old. Regardless, Starkweather and Carly Ann Fugate quickly became close. Eventually, Starkweather took a job as a garbage collector. During pickups, he plotted out robberies on homes, but his real criminal streak began when he committed his first murder. On November 30th, 1957, Charles Starkweather tried to purchase a stuffed animal from a local gas station on credit. When the young attendant refused, Starkweather robbed him at gunpoint and then took him out into the woods where he shot him in the head. Yet Starkweather remained free, and it wasn't until his next murder, which was what started the chain of events that would transfix the country. On January 21st, 1958, Starkweather went to get Carly Ann Fugate at her home, where he was confronted by Fugate's mother and stepfather. They reportedly told him to stay away from their daughter, and in response, Starkweather fatally shot both of them. He then strangled and stabbed Fugate's 2-year-old half-sister to death. Fugate's participation in this grisly murder is still up for debate. While she has insisted both then and now that she wasn't a willing participant, but rather Starkweather's hostage, Starkweather has insisted otherwise. After murdering Fugate's family, the two camped down her house for a few days, with a sign on the front window that cautioned people not to come in because they were all sick with the flu. Ultimately, Starkweather took Carly Ann to her family friend's house, 70-year-old August Meyer, and shot both him and his dog with a shotgun. Starkweather then attempted to flee the area of Fugate, but when he drove their car into the mud, 2 teenagers, Robert Jensen and Carol King, stopped to help. Starkweather rewarded their generosity by shooting Jensen to death. He then attempted and failed to sexually assault King before he shot her to death as well. Starkweather later claimed that Fugate shot King to death, but Fugate denied the accusation. Their next stop was at the home of industrialist C. Lauer Ward. After stabbing his maid, Lillian Fensel, to death, Starkweather killed the family dog, then stabbed Ward's wife Clara to death when she came home. He finished up finally by fatally shooting C. Lauer Ward in his home. After that massacre, that's when they came upon Merle Collison sleeping in his Buick just outside of Douglas, Wyoming. To get his car, the pair fatally shot and killed him. But while Starkweather claimed that Fugate was the one who pulled the trigger, Fugate again steadfastly denied killing Collison. Collison's Buick had a brake mechanism that was unfamiliar to Starkweather, and as a result, the car stalled when he tried to drive away. A passing motorist, Joe Sprinkle, stopped to try to help, and an altercation ensued. When Starkweather threatened Sprinkle with a gun, County Sheriff Deputy William Romer showed up. Upon seeing the deputy, Fugate ran to him and identified Starkweather as the murderer. Starkweather roped her into a high-speed chase with the deputies, but Starkweather pulled over when one of the cops shattered his windshield and cut his ear. He thought he was bleeding to death, one of the arresting officers recalled. That's why he stopped. That's the kind of yellow son of a bitch he is. Charles Starkweather was arrested and brought up on only one charge of first-degree murder, the murder of Robert Jensen. At the time, Starkweather willingly chose to be extradited from Wyoming to Nebraska because he believed, incorrectly, that prosecutors wouldn't seek the death penalty because the governor at the time was against execution. But that governor changed his tune specifically for Charles Starkweather. The state of Nebraska carried out his execution, death via the electric chair, on June 25, 1959. He was buried in a cemetery in Lincoln, Nebraska, where 5 of his victims are also buried. Carly Ann Fugate's story, however, ended a little differently. Throughout her trial, she maintained that she was Charles Starkweather's hostage and that he threatened to kill her family if she didn't follow him, not knowing he had already killed her parents. She added that she was too terrified to run away while he drove her around on his killing spree. The judge ruled that she had ample opportunity to escape and gave her a life sentence on November 21, 1958. At the time, she was the youngest person in American history to be tried for first-degree murder. Fugate was paroled on good behavior after 18 years. She married and changed her name to Carol Ann Clare. In February 2020, Clare, who was 76 years old at the time, attempted to get a pardon from the Nebraska Pardons Board. her request was denied. The Starkweather Fugate case was one of the most notorious crime sprees in American history. While it is disturbing, what added to the notoriety was that their spree was one of the first crimes to capture the attention of the American public in the age of television. The spree was covered extensively by the media, and their faces were blasted all over papers and TVs throughout the country. After his capture, Starkweather told the Lancaster County Sheriff, "I always wanted to be a criminal, but not this big a one." The media's coverage of the Starkweather spree set the stage for the way that crime would be covered for years to come. You could see the Starkweather influences on the character of Mickey Knox and natural-born killers as a whole. A man who was in all purposes a natural-born killer, who grabbed the attention of the country but never wanted it. Starkweather was just a sick individual who wanted to kill. But that doesn't change the fact that the Starkweather spree changed the landscape of how the media follows crime to this day. The principle of not printing the killer's name has fully been given up. We see constant reminders of horrific mass shootings and killings. Rolling Stone magazine went as far as devoting their cover of a magazine in 2013 to one of the Boston Marathon bombers. For all those that want it to change, there's an old saying, "You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube." As we witness natural-born killers and the Starkweather killing spree, it's impossible to overlook the role of media in shaping and amplifying these narratives. The film itself serves as a scathing critique, highlighting how the media can, intentionally or unintentionally, glorify the darkest aspects of human nature. The line between reporting and sensationalism blurs, leaving us to question the societal fascination with violence and the blurred boundaries between reality and fiction.